Well, good morning, everyone. You're really welcome in joining us for another Sunday morning here at Central. We hope you've been enjoying our online services. We started last week on a new theme called Faith at Home. And that is a bunch of interviews with our leadership team looking at what it's been like for them living during this strange part of life. So last week we had Ross and Lydia who were talking to us about what it was like to work in COVID centres and what it was like to be on furlough during this. And this week we have Lynda and Helen talking about what it was like to live alone during this time. We hope that these give you a good chance to gain some of the wisdom of the people that you do church with, and that they can help to build you up by hearing about what it's like for them living their life with Jesus. So I'm just going to read a piece from Colossians, and then we're going to pray, and then it's over to them. Let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts. Since as members of one body you were called to peace, and be thankful. Let the word of Christ dwell in you richly, as you teach and admonish one another with all wisdom, and as you sing psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs with gratitude in your hearts to God. And whatever you do, whether in word or deed, do it all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him. Lord, we just thank you that during this time you've given us a means to try and be together. A way to learn more about who you are, to be encouraged by the lives of those we share in. Lord, we just pray that during these interviews, people share what is very vulnerable parts of them, and that we are built up by what they have to say. That in hearing how you speak to them, you might also speak to us. Lord, we just pray that as we look forward in this time to meeting together again in a building, and that you would guide us how to do that really well, do that really safely, and Lord, that we would find a way to honour you as we do that. So we just thank you for the people who are going to make those decisions, Lord, and pray that you be with them as the plan moves forward. Lord, as always, we just pray that you will bring yourself to us in a way that helps us learn more about who you are, that it might affect who we are, that we could go out and affect change in the world around us. So Lord, we just offer today over to you, and this church is yours, this service is yours. We pray that you do with us as you see fit. Amen. Over to you guys.
Lynda, welcome. Thank you so much for being part of this series on conversations, and just delighted so good to see you, delighted to be in this, and just for a chance for us to chat a wee bit tonight. So for folks, who doesn't know Lynda, but in case somebody isn't sure who you are, tell us a wee bit about yourself.
Okay, I am Lynda, and I'm on the leadership team at Central, from Bangor, and I'm a primary school teacher, and I live on my own with a little dog called Poppy, and Helen, tell us about yourself.
So I too have a dog, Molly, and it's a wee crowd of us that take our dogs out for a walk every so often, isn't there? So I'm also on the leadership team with you. I live in East Belfast, but grew up in the West, grew up in Oma, mighty Oma, and I'm now principal of Belfast Bible College. So Lynda, I am guessing now that you are off for the summer. Yes. School is out. How does it feel? Any nice plans for the next few hours?
It's amazing. I thoroughly recommend it. It's brilliant. You just switch into it like that, don't you? You just straight away. It just feels different than the term does. And just a while now of coffees, lunches, dog walks, all socially distanced, of course. And then heading to Donegal with a crowd of 6 of us, or heading up Donegal town direction. So it'll be beaches and forests and more coffee shops and dog walks and picnics and all of that. So can't wait.
So I am guessing, as a primary school teacher, the last couple of months have been maybe a little bit hectic and a little bit mad. Yeah. Talk to us about how have you found the last 3 months?
Okay. It's just been so different, Helen, to normal life in a primary school, where you're just in the morning and you just don't stop and you're interacting with the kids, and it's great crack, but it's intense, and you're just thinking all the time, and you're trying to make sure the kids are feeling safe, and you're trying to do their lessons, and then all of a sudden within the space of it seemed like 5 minutes, the kids weren't there, and we were learning how to teach them remotely. So my 9 to 5 looks really different at the minute, or it did. So I had to think of really creative and adaptable ways just to teach the kids and try and keep connections with the families. And some weeks were really busy and some weeks really weren't. Sometimes you were making phone calls, doing pastoral care phone calls, checking in with your vulnerable families, trying to keep things going. And then there's other weeks where there just wasn't very much going on at all. There wasn't much back and forth. So yeah, school life it's really, really inconsistent. But we've got through it and we've learnt a lot from it, and we'll maybe know what to do in September depending on what happens. So that it just looked really different, and then in the evenings it just looked different for me as well, because I usually go to school, come home, walk the dog, have my dinner, and go back up, usually up to Belfast again to see people, see friends or family, or go to church. And that just again in like the space of 5 minutes, that just stopped in it. It didn't happen anymore. So, like it didn't, contact with people didn't stop. I mean, we all learned to use Zoom very quickly and Google Hangouts and all the rest. And so there was new things like trying to balance your digital diary. That became a thing. I saved loads of money from petrol. I didn't buy petrol for 2 months. It was amazing. And then just finding local places just to walk the dog, because I would usually drive her to Crawfordsburn or drive to the beach or drive somewhere. So just get to know your local area very well.
And did you find that lack of routine hard?
No, not really. No, I just knew it all had to be new. Everybody was trying to adjust to something. Everybody's life looked different so quickly. And yeah, it's just a bit tiring at the start. It was strange. But no, I don't know if I'm just adaptable to that, or I got the sense that it's, this is a storm, but it'll pass, or this is a temporary thing, or, we'll just adapt for this amount of time and then there'll be something else. So no, that didn't worry me too much. No.
When I think of you, I just think of you naturally default, look out for other people, find ways to be helpful. How, did you have to sacrifice that actually over this time, or did you find new ways to do that, or how?
That's a good
how
point.
were you in this?
Yeah, that was something that I found a wee bit tricky. That would have been my struggle at the start, because it was I do like to be a useful human being. I do like to kind of start the day just thinking about what's going to happen, praying, right, God, how can I love people well, or what can I do, or in school or outside of that. And at the end of the day, I like thinking over it and making new plans. But you just have to be more creative, don't you, just in how you connect with people, and maybe at the start listening out for who was really maybe struggling a bit with lockdown, and connecting with them. And then actually with that connection you find actually it's helping you as well. So I ended up doing Alpha online, so that was something that was good. And I probably struggled with that a wee bit. I had to let that go. Just had to sit down, be still, press the reset button, restore the factory settings. Just take a bit of time just to sit and breathe for a bit, and not just be like, right, what's next? Yeah.
I think for me, my standout word from this time is rhythm. So I have just found it crazy. It has just been I feel like I've been running at 100 miles an hour through all of this. Probably actually mostly to do with work and just how intense work is. But it's been for me the importance of rhythm. So I now I'm working from home, but I'll stop for coffee and I'll stop for lunch. And I wouldn't have normally done those. I wouldn't have done that in a typical week, but I've needed that. I've needed that rhythm, that change. And even, I've said to Dave, one of my favourite parts of Sunday is his actual intro to the sermon. For me, it's that rhythm that we are together. I've loved that Sunday morning rhythm of, sitting on my sofa. I am, turning on to watch, and we're doing it together. And so that's actually been a really important rhythm for me. So I have just found that's just I think that's my standout word or standout practice. And I wonder sometimes, have I been living in a way to think I didn't need rhythms, and that this time has really underlined I need that. I need rhythms. And you just think, well, of course you do. There's seasons in the year. There's, who did I think I was that could get away with that, but that's been, I suppose I've just been really conscious of the importance of that, for me. Yeah. What about you? What have you found helpful during this time?
Probably just just acknowledging that I needed to slow down and just rest, and that it was okay, and that it was for a season, and just to allow myself to actually, take a breather and just stop for a while. And probably really helpful for me in that I've got a back garden. And I'm an outside person, and that's where I'll be found. And when the laptop closes at the end of the day, it's just, I'm outside, and to me, that just being outside, it settles me. It brings me a great amount of peace. And just, if you're in your garden, doing something and frittering away or growing something or changing something, you're thinking about one thing. To me, it's your mind. My mind slows down a wee bit. So, and maybe to do with the useful thing again, but I decided to make my garden into a little wildlife haven. I gave myself a wee project, and kind of looked up 10 things to do to make your garden more wildlife friendly, and I just basically ticked them all off. So I've got a wildflower meadow now where the lawn used to be. I've got a pond. I'm trying to build a pond, and I've got my log pile for the bugs, and I've got the flowers for the pollinators. I've got the hedgerow all set up for the birds. All the nerdy wildlife gardening things, and I've grown some vegetables for myself. So I just found there was real peace for me in that.
Brilliant.
Other people are putting up on Instagram how they've made the perfect banana bread or sourdough or whatever, and I'm out, I'm taking a photo of a bee has come and it's landed in the cornflower, but I just find that really helpful. It's just a quiet space. I'm not watching the news. I'm not talking about fear or panic or pandemic or anything. So and the weather was brilliant.
Yeah, it's been gorgeous.
It was fab.
Been gorgeous.
Yeah. And then another thing probably is our friends who are personal trainers, and they put on Zoom workouts 3 times a week, and where there's a dozen of us all just in that hour. Again, you're not thinking about anything other than just leaping around your living room, and the only thing you worry about is making sure the blinds are closed so nobody can see it. So just things like that in your weight group, that was really helpful. For me,
I think I've been really struck how each of us have had a different experience of this, and I think it's going to be easy to make an assumption, we've all had the same lockdown, or we've all had the same, but I've just been really struck how it's been really different. And so I've been juggling work, but I have other friends who are juggling work and kids, or some people are really missing their friends, and other people are really missing their family. I've just been really struck with the difference. I think actually I had a brilliant conversation with Jamie one Sunday when I was in filming the sermon, and we were just talking about our experience, and I was just really struck how we can make assumptions about each other, that I can presume, because I'm living on my own, then it's like this, so therefore it must be like that if you're not, or vice versa. And I was just really struck, actually, we need to just ask, not make assumptions, and how important that is, and actually the learning in that, and just what we're all trying to juggle. And so I know I've really missed seeing people. I've really missed seeing people, and so where I live, when I'm out walking the dog, I'm really fortunate. I've got a couple of really good friends that live nearby, and so I'll have a wee curb chat, and just a couple of minutes of chatting to somebody, not on Zoom, not on my phone, it's just been really, really lovely and really important. And even now, like, I can see you now in lockdown, and so I'm just I suppose I'm reminded that I'm living on my own, but that's my experience, but that doesn't mean that somebody else isn't also struggling with the same things that I am. What about you? How have you found living on your own? How's it been for you?
I've quite enjoyed it. I've really quite enjoyed just everything was different, and I knew it was for a short amount of time, and I'm usually surrounded by loads of people. Like I have wonderful people in my world and wonderful things to do, and but it was just really nice just to slow down for me. And again, I reckoned it was for a short amount of time, and tried to find my inner introvert and just embrace it, and just at the point now, whenever I have started to see people again, and my friends moved in around the corner, it was like, people in 3D, it did make a difference, but for the main time, maybe the first 2 months or so when it was so intense and people weren't going out at all, it's been okay for me.
I think as I reflect back in the last couple of months, I've just been really aware of God with me, and I think there's been just some really key moments, like over our Easter weekend at Central, I got up at ridiculous o'clock, whatever it was, and did a reading in the sunrise, and that was actually just a really significant moment for me. And I actually can remember standing in my garden and trying to figure out where the sun might appear, and I was actually really struck with it's the same with God. You almost intuitively know He's there, and actually just the importance of remembering He is with us in the middle of this. And I feel like I've had, I don't mean that it's been a sense of every day, but just really significant moments. And I think also for me, that Nua weekend, or the weekend that we were meant to be away in Nua, just sitting out in the garden, I think it was on the Sunday of that weekend, and listening to the Mark Sayers interview. And I was a mess, I have to say. Just felt like God was really speaking, and it was just a real, for me, a reminder that it's just obedience to Him, and actually nothing else matters. And actually, whenever that's what you set your life to, it's like everything else, just the perspective of that shifts. So I feel like there's been just little significant moments across this where I've just maybe it's been me aligning my posture to Him, or just His generosity and His presence with me. But it's been really quite precious. What about you? What do you think you've learned or rediscovered about God?
Probably more rediscovering than learning new things. Probably the main thing is that I find God in the quiet. And I know different people find God in different ways and find their peace in different ways. But for me, it's when things slow down, when I settle myself, when I just stop, whenever I stop running and racing and doing all this stuff, that I just find the peace that I just know, again, it's like God's with me. There's something about that where I just rediscovered that, and that's happened to me time and time again at times when I have slowed down. So like years ago I had a career break and I did something different than work for the year, so it was a slower time, and I discovered it then. And then last year Dave did the series all about Sabbath and rest, and I put a lot of that into practice, and I discovered it again. And then life gets busy again, doesn't it? And then there was a series in communities we did on silence and solitude, and I stepped into that, and I did it for a while and rediscovered that again, and then it got busy, so for this I'm hoping now that this will be my takeaway from lockdown, that it's been long enough now that it's a good habit of just slowing down and pressing in, and just pray. I pray in a different way whenever things are slower, instead of when things are busy. I've got my my dog walks in the morning and after school at night, and that would be key times for me for praying. But and this I just ramble through the day. I just as I think about things, I just know God's with me and He's hearing. And I've had people go through some really, really terrible things in lockdown, some real real periods of illness or family members. There's been grief, there's been loss, and I've just had time to pray for that. And on the other side, there's people who've had really happy things, people who've had babies and gone through adoption projects and fostering and moving house, and just God's in it all, isn't He? And it's just nice to have time just to sit and process it and think about it. And He's just always there. He's faithful. He's, whether you're feeling like you're useful or not, or have a purpose or not, He's there, and He's you're His, and you're known, and you're loved, regardless of the circumstance.
Talk to me more about, you talked about how your practices of prayer have maybe changed. What can you give me an example, or
it's more like a continual conversation. Okay. I'm not quite sure how to describe it. It's instead of it used to be in the mornings would have been my time when if I'd said I was going to pray for someone, that it would be the morning time I'd do that, and then the processing of the days later on, it'd be a time where I'd maybe sit down and I'd listen more. But just when you've got the time, there's a bit more space. I just know as I'm thinking things through, I've invited God at the start of the day just to be in my thoughts, and it's just your day, kind of becomes your prayer, and that makes sense to me. But yeah, it just felt different, but it felt deeper, you know, and it feels like there's a new something that I'm going to push into a wee bit more.
It maybe links in, I wonder, does it link into what Ross said last week about whole life living, and just that it's not compartments, but it's like, it just feels like you're describing something that's just seeping into what's happening, you know, which is, yeah.
So it's just a case of how then does
Yeah.
that transfer into post-lockdown life, you know, how do you take the bits that are good and you know are deep and good, and you know, just not for it not to get lost in the noise again, you know, when things pick up.
So the question that I have been asking at the end of, or towards the end of our conversation is there a passage that you have particularly, that has stuck with you during this time? And so I'd love you to read that with us, but maybe tell us why you picked that one.
I've got Zephaniah 3:17. And I'll read it in a minute, but it starts off, the Lord your God is with you, and that's what we've been saying, really. It's just, you know, that's, what else do you need, you know, in those moments. And this is a verse that I would go to, you know, again and again and again, and I think it's only one verse, but each line I think you could do like a whole sermon on. And part of it is just how God takes great delight in us, and he quiets us with his love. You know, he's the one that we go to settle us. He's the one that we're going to find our peace with. And he rejoices over you with singing. You know, it doesn't need, it's that thing of where I always feel like I need to be a useful human being, you know, whether I'm actually doing that or being that. Well, it's, you know, God is rejoicing over me with singing regardless, you know. I just have to be there, and he's delighted in that, and you know, it's just really good to think about that. So I can't wrap my head around it a lot of the time, but you know, I think it's just good to really think about. So yeah, Zephaniah 3:17. The Lord your God is with you. He is mighty to save. He will take great delight in you. He will quiet you with his love. He will rejoice over you with singing.
Thank you. Oh, Lynda, thank you. It's been just lovely to chat and share and think about these last couple of months. Yeah, brilliant.
Always a pleasure to talk to you, Helen. Always. Yeah.
I guess we want to invite you into these conversations. Maybe there's something that I've said or Lynda has said, and just talk about it over lunch today. Get on that WhatsApp and chat about it as a community, and as we look back, it's where did you see God, or as you look forward, what do you want to carry into this next season? So, you know, 4 questions that we're just throwing out and asking you to reflect on over July. What have you learnt about yourself during this time? What have you learnt about yourself during this time? What big questions has it provoked? What have you learnt or relearnt about God? And what of some of the things that you've learnt or thought about do you want to carry in post all this and carry into the next season? So we want these conversations to trigger you in your thinking and trigger you in your conversations, and allow July, over the time of July, to be a wee bit of a space for all of us to reflect individually and together and talk about what we're learning or not learning, or what we're discovering about God. So thank you again for being part of our conversation this morning. Thank you.